I think one of the things that I absolutely love about Namibia, and just one thing that I also need to make clear, is I said to you, this is such a large country. And one thing people underestimate is the huge distances that you need to cover to get from one point to another. I think that is probably what I love about it the most, is you can travel for absolute kilometers and just see absolutely nobody. It's almost like landing on another planet. And to me, then you come across these striking landscapes and striking contrasts that just make it so spectacular.
Yeah, you see, but a lot of the people here, if we are going on a self-drive, Nikki, we are not used to driving very long distance, Yeah, so if one day, on average, if we drive around 300 kilometers to 400 kilometers, that's already a lot for people in this region, because we never actually travel that far. Singapore from one end to another end is just 42 kilometers. On the longest part. Yeah, so this will be a challenge. And then, I would actually recommend that if you are driving, then take frequent breaks, which is very important, or you rotate between drivers. Yeah, so that is one thing that you will have to take note if you are driving there, and keep to the speed limit, because, those are gravel roads and it can be quite slippery. Yeah.
Sure. So most of the roads between the major areas are tarred, but then off those tar roads, there's quite a lot of gravel road. Most of the places, the gravel roads are well maintained, but obviously driving on gravel roads, you just do need to be careful. As Julian said, we obviously, when planning a self-drive itinerary, we look for routes that are quite safe to drive from a driving, road safety perspective. And also, obviously, we take into consideration driving distances. So we don't really want you to be driving like 5-6 hours a day between places. So we would pull that all together into an itinerary to make it manageable distances for people.
Yeah. Nikki, since we are at yeah, can I just quickly also interrupt a bit? Just a tip for the photographers here. Okay, so if you are visiting the dunes, if you can, if you can, please bring along a second camera body. That means use 2 camera bodies when you're visiting the dunes, and do not change lenses when you're there. The main reason is because, if it's windy and then the sand particles might get into your sensors, and then it will be a lot of issues later on, with getting your pictures. So my recommendation is do not change lenses when you are visiting the dunes, and just stick on to the lenses that you have already mounted to the camera bodies. If required, bring additional camera bodies for that. Okay, yeah, thank you, Nikki.
Thanks, Julian. All right, so coming up to Walvis Bay. Walvis Bay is right on the coastline, about sort of halfway up the Namibian coast, and it is the second largest city in Namibia, and it forms a totally natural deep sea harbor. So there's a sand spit which goes out naturally, forming this beautiful playground for whales, seals, dolphins. The cruise ships all come in here. There's quite a lot of cruise ships that dock here and frequent Walvis Bay. But it really is a beautiful destination for birding and for sort of like I said, your whales, seals, dolphins. So a lot of the types of activities that you would do here some of the activities you would do here would be revolved around your boating trips. So there's boating trips that go out into the bay. For those a little bit more adventurous, you can go kayaking. And then you have beautiful natural bird sanctuaries with flamingos, pelicans, cormorants. So for those birders there, it really is a magnificent destination. This is also very much the adventure destination in Namibia, with lots of sand duning, quad biking, and then this is the most exquisite trip called Sandwich Harbour, where you go out in 4x4s, and you can see what makes this country so absolutely unique is the fact that the sand dunes the desert just comes straight down into the sea. The colors and are just so incredible, and it's just such a unique sort of situation to have these huge massive desert sand dunes coming straight into the sea here. But a beautiful day trip from Walvis Bay, taking you right the way down the coastline, and then they stop for lunch sort of right up on the top of the dunes, or at the flay, at the birds. It's just a beautiful, beautiful day trip out. The Welwitschia plant, just on the bottom right-hand corner here, another fascinating plant. They call this a living fossil. The interesting thing about the Welwitschia is it can be, they've dated them up to sort of 2,000 years old, but this entire plant is made up of only 2 leaves. And over the years, these 2 leaves grow, and obviously with the wind and the sand, they split into loads of different sort of, you can see this sort of lots of, it looks like there's so many different leaves on here, but really an ancient plant that is found, and desert adapted plant that is found right in the middle of the desert. And you can't imagine how these can survive with so little water, but they are totally adapted to this. Another wonderful thing to do in Walvis Bay is to go out and explore the desert with really highly qualified guides who take you out and show you all the desert adapted wildlife, from the small little sort of insects and reptiles to the plant life. And it really is just such a fascinating day out into the desert. Swakopmund itself is only sort of 20 minutes, half an hour from Walvis Bay, and got a very German feeling about it, with a beautiful pier, and it's a lovely little town to stop at and spend a day or two, definitely en route up north. So most people would sort of do your southern route, stop here for Swakopmund for a day or two, and then go up and start heading further north. So just to show you where we are now, I took you down to the Quiver Tree forests down here, the Fish River Canyon, ghost town of Kolmanskop here. We went up through the Namibia Park to Walvis Bay and Swakopmund. So now we're going to head up in a northerly direction through Damaraland in this area, up to Coacaland, Etosha National Park, and then into the Caprivi Strip. So here again, right, going up north, it's really all about the incredible landscapes, but combining with these incredible landscapes up north, you have some amazing game viewing. So we're going to look at some of the national parks going further north just now. But this area of Damaraland is famous for its rock formations. This one is called Fingerklip, which translated means rock finger. Fingerklip in Damaraland, you have the beautiful Brandberg Mountains, and of course in this area you have many sand paintings. This area was traditionally occupied by the San people, and scattered all around the area are incredible sand paintings to view. Again, you can see here just the striking colors of the area here, just the oranges, and you know it's really all about the landscapes and the striking colors here. You have the desert adapted elephant in the Damaraland, Coacaland region, as well as rhinos in the region. Then going right up the coastline, and this is from Swakopmund sort of further up north, is what they call the Skeleton Coast. So the first section, we can divide the Skeleton Coast sort of into 2 sections. The first section, just going north of Swakopmund, is accessible by vehicle. It's very popular for fishermen, actually. There's a lot of fishing that goes on up this stretch of the coastline. And then further north, you need a permit to get in there. And this area really is called the Skeleton Coast because of its large sort of so many shipwrecks all the way along the coastline. So the rough seas, as well as the fact that there's so much mist and fog along this coastline, obviously because of the heat of the desert with the cold Benguela current, which runs down, well in fact which runs up the coastline from the Antarctic, bring the really cold water and the hot sea. You get a lot of fog and a lot of mist in this area, and the rough seas and the currents in the area. We have loads of shipwrecks all the way along this coastline. To get into the lodges up in this area is, I would say most people would fly in. Most of the time you can't get there unless you really are a highly skilled 4x4 driver. Most of these places are accessible by aircraft only. And then right up in Coacaland, this is right up in the northwestern section of Namibia. They sort of call this the Wild West of Namibia, because most of this area is not really accessible to a normal, certainly not to people driving a normal sedan. And I would also say definitely not to people who are, if you're not an experienced four-wheel drive driver, I would not head into this area on your own at all. But the area is most known for the strikingly beautiful Himba tribe. The Himba still live traditionally in this area, and you can go and visit the Himba on a sort of do a cultural tour. And then right up in the northern section, as I mentioned to you, Namibia is bordered on both sides by rivers. Right up in the north, we have the Kunene River, which is the border between Namibia and Angola, right up in the north. And you can do rafting along this river, but there are also some incredible lodges scattered all the way along this river, mostly fly-in lodges, which we'll cover when we do the fly-in safaris. You also have the Apupa Falls right up here, which is a series of waterfalls in the area. And then, of course, just again, these just magical, dramatic landscapes, and some of these lodges that are totally, totally remote, literally just attracting the desert elephant in the area, and some of there are lion in the area as well. So the lone men of Coacaland, this is also a mystery of the Coacaland region that was discovered fairly recently. There have been 9 of these lone figures that have been found in the Coacaland region, and built beautiful, stone formations, and they say that it is the spirit of the people who just loved the landscape so much that they've been turned into stone in this landscapes. All right, finally we come to Etosha National Park. So Etosha National Park is an incredible park, basically centralized around a massive, massive salt pan. The salt pan can be seen from space. The Etosha National Park is around the size of Switzerland. And I think what makes this park so absolutely unique is because of the sparse landscape and because of the salt pan. Obviously, you can see the animals from far, far away. It has many, many elephants and lion in the area, as well as black rhino and white rhino, cheetah, leopard, and of course many, many plains game. So making it an incredible wildlife destination. And when the rains come, and the pans, gets these little little pools of water all around the pan, the animals come from miles to come and drink because it's so nutrient rich around the pans. So it really does make it an incredible game viewing destination here around Etosha. And then finally, I wanted to take you through this little Caprivi strip over here. So it really is an incredible little finger that juts off from Namibia along the northern borders of Botswana. And here you have the Kazangula border. Kazangula border is actually a border post where 4 countries meet, the country of Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. And it's in this tiny little corner right over here. But for those of you who traveled through Botswana with us a couple of weeks back, we spoke about the Chobe National Park, which is really up here. We spoke about the Linyanti region and of course the Okavango Delta over here. So really this is bordering on Chobe and the Linyanti region. And if I show you here, you can see that this whole area is crisscrossed with game reserves and rivers, the Kwando River, the Linyanti River, the Chobe, the Zambezi. It's just a load of rivers. And if I show you pictures of it, you will see, those of you who joined us on our trip through Namibia, that this very much resembles certain areas of the Okavango Delta and certainly the Linyanti floodplains. So here Your activities again are totally different. I mean, it's almost amazing to think that this is part of Namibia. If you look at all the other pictures that I've shown you on Namibia with those stark contrasting landscapes and incredible colors, and desert, you know, the huge desert landscapes, suddenly we go into the absolute lushness of the Caprivi Strip, surrounded by rivers and game lodges. You can see everything here revolves around the water activities. So there's incredible fishing in the area. The bird life is absolutely magnificent. Lots of boat cruises up and down. You can do Makoro trips in this area. The wildlife is absolutely spectacular again, with the big five predominant in the area. And as I mentioned, the birding and the fishing is just really, really incredible. So to end off your trip up here is going to give you again a totally different experience of Namibia. And I thought I would leave you here just sitting on the banks of the Kwando River, looking out over the river with a gin and tonic in your hand and watching the animals coming down, watching the elephants come down to drink as the sun sets over the beautiful landscape. So that is our brief introduction to Namibia today.
So Nikki, just half an hour, great, you know, wow, okay. Yeah, but
I managed to do half an hour.
yeah, you know, but I think this is already a lot of information to absorb, you know, looking at the fabulous pictures, don't you folks agree? You know, looking at the diverse photo opportunities that you can get in such a vast country, you know, this is really, really fantastic. Yeah, so we do have some questions already in the chat for you. So one of it is Derek is actually asking, what's the speed limit for driving in Namibia?
It really depends on where you're driving. So if you're driving on the main routes between, for example, Windhoek and Swakopmund,
yeah,
I think it's 120 if I'm not mistaken. But certainly if you're driving on the smaller routes, I would not go more than 60 kilometers an hour.
Yeah. That is in the urban area, yeah, right? Yeah, in the city areas, yeah. So actually on the gravel roads, which are not the tar roads, for people who are not familiar with the gravel roads, you know, I would, that's my personal recommendation, Nikki, but I would say probably about 70 to 80 is the max.
Yeah.
But then you see, like in South Africa, I'm driving like 100 and 120 on the gravel road. But then just note that if the road is slippery, okay, and you're not too sure of that, it can be quite dangerous. Yeah, so it's still recommended to basically keep between 70 to 80, you know, on general. So which is why the driving plus the driving distance, it can take up quite a bit of time. So you really have to time it carefully. And maybe as photographers, you want to really start very early, you know, and then you have all the time till the evening to get to your next destination. So the main thing is that for Namibia, Nikki, maybe we can also let them know, say, how many days roughly we plan, because this is not like your typical Singapore where you plan 4 days, 3 nights, and then you see everything twice over. You know, Namibia, I think you will need to be really relaxed and nice, about 12 to 14 days. I think that will be good, you know, to spend over there. Okay, yeah, so that's the information.
Definitely, it really depends on how much of the country you want to see. But I would say to do Namibia in less than 2 weeks is going to be very rushed.
Yes, yeah, I perfectly agree on that. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question, Derek. Okay, and then Jen is asking, do the landscape change across seasons? You know, so different seasons, do you see different landscapes?
So in fact, that's a great question. One of the things I wanted to bring up is, you know, we get asked when is the best time to visit Namibia. I would say, you know, in the December, January time, it can get very hot in Namibia, and also that is when they have their rainy season. Although having said that, you know, when I say rainy season, I'm not talking about days and days of rain. I'm talking about short bursts of rains in certain areas in the country. But I would say sort of any time from May to October is a really great time. Even April to October, really great time to visit Namibia. If you can try and avoid the peak season, July, August is very busy, and the Namibian lodges get booked up way, way in advance. So if you can try and avoid July, August, that's great. In terms of availability at the lodges, if you can, yeah. So I would say ideally, May, June is a really great time. August, September, or September, October, fantastic time to travel.
Nikki, just
sorry, and to answer your questions about the landscapes changing, obviously during the rainy season, you certainly find it's incredible how, you look at a desert landscape and you can't imagine how anything can live there or anything can thrive there. But it's absolutely amazing how just with a tiny little bit of rain, these landscapes just come to life.
Nikki, just allow me to steal a little bit of your airtime, yeah? Because I'm actually, we are secretly planning a trip next year up there in June or July. So if you guys are interested in Namibia, please do keep a lookout on our website very soon, okay? We'll be posting that. But of course, that will depend on whether the restriction has been eased, okay? And then we can travel, okay? So that will really depends very largely on that. And we're just keeping our options open at this moment. Okay. Yeah, so, and we have a question from Karen. So Karen is asking, is there any concern for personal or group safety when we travel there? Okay.
No, Namibia, I must say, is an incredibly safe destination to travel in. The worst that you may need to worry about is, maybe in the big cities of pickpocketing, but it's a very safe destination. I would have absolutely no concerns about safety.
Yeah. In fact,
the biggest concern actually is drivers who are not equipped to be driving, and they drive too fast on the dirt roads. And really, that is probably one of the biggest issues is, people spinning cars and things because they're just not driving carefully.
Yeah, that's right. So Namibia has been known as one of the safest country in the world, actually, even if you Google that out. Yeah, so we hope that answers your question, Karen. Okay, and Ian is actually asking any unique animal species that they can spot in Namibia.
Well, I mean, there's the most incredible desert adapted animals that you're not going to find anywhere else. The oryx are incredible in the desert. The black rhinos in Etosha are incredible. And then, as I mentioned to you, if you're going into Damaraland and you have the desert adapted elephants and the desert adapted rhino, it's quite incredible when we've looked at other areas which have got lush vegetation, and then you see literally the elephants walking through the desert. They've totally adapted to the landscapes. So you will see many animals here that you won't see in other areas that are totally adapted to the desert landscape.
And if you are really lucky, you'll probably see the elephant hunting lions. The lions that eat the elephants, in the desert. Because food is so difficult to find, and then the lions there are also adapted to hunt the elephants. Yeah, so that's really, really amazing. So
it's quite fascinating, actually. It really is fascinating how both, fauna and flora, how they've adapted.
Yeah. So Derek is asking, would it be able to stay inside the dune or stay outside, because of the, I believe there's a gate, if that you get into the dune, like Dune 45, so would it be able to stay inside? But I think you can, right? There's a number of lodges inside there.
Yeah, 1 or 2 private concessions. Most of the lodges are on the outside. 1 or 2 private concessions,
Right. Okay. Yeah. So
that was mainly at the gate area.
Because as photographers, I think the first light is important, and you want to be there when the sun comes up, and you'll be able to.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is you want to be situated as close to the gate as possible, so that as soon as the gates open, you can get into the park, and you're not driving sort of an hour to get to the gate. That's the important thing.
Yes. Yeah. So that is definitely what we would do in that sense. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, and then Karen is asking, what is the COVID-19 situation currently in Namibia?
In Namibia. So, Southern Africa at the moment is in quite an interesting situation. The Southern African countries are all slowly opening up. and it's quite, rules are changing very fluidly at the moment. So I'm almost hesitant to say where we're at right now. Currently, Namibia's borders are open. But as it stands, and I think this is going to change very, very soon, they're still looking at, they want a COVID test sort of within 3 days of arrival, and then again within 5 days of arrival, a negative COVID test. I do think that this is very fluid right now. So I think this is going to change. And I do think, you know, obviously one of the things about Namibia is, you know, the remoteness of so many of these places, which is what makes it so spectacular, but it's not, doesn't lend itself to racing back into the town to go and get a COVID test. So I do think this is in the process of changing, and I think within the next 2 or 3 weeks we're going to see things opening up totally in Southern Africa.
Right. Nikki, at some point, Namibia has this, when you arrive at your very first destination in the country, you have to stay there for 7 or 14 days or something like that.
They did have that.
Yeah.
That was the first ruling, but it's obviously not practical.
Yeah, that is correct. So they have scrapped that already. Right.
They've scrapped that already, yeah. I think that's what's really, you know, people are starting to realize, you know, for South Africa as well now, you need to have a COVID test done within 72 hours of departure. And I think if you've got and then they're doing a COVID test on arrival. So I think if you've got a clear COVID test on departure, you know, from wherever you're departing from, and then again you'll have a COVID test on arrival, and if you are negative, then I think that's going to be the way forward. Yeah.
So lots of testing when you get back again, and then you have to test.
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of food is available? Is it suitable for the Asian palate?
There's a wide variety of food available. Quite a German influence, in fact. Certainly in the towns of Swakopmund and Walvis Bay is quite a strong German influence on the foods. But certainly the lodges are absolutely amazing, all of them, at catering to any dietary requirements at all. And I don't think it would be any problem.
Yes, yeah. And for some of the remote places, they technically have to fly in the food, right?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. But as long as, you know, all of them, as long as you give them a little bit of advance warning and you don't tell them on the day, which is why, you know, we always ask for dietary requirements up front. You know, likes, dislikes, dietary requirements. We always request that way up front so that we can advise all of our properties that we're dealing with in advance.
Yeah.
Because of the fact, like you say, Julian, most of them are quite remote. You can't suddenly expect them on the day to sort of be catering to a vegan or, you know, vegetarian or whatever, gluten intolerant or whatever it might be, you know. But they're absolutely amazing at catering to anything as long as they know in advance.
Yes, yeah. So generally you will be expecting like Western food, you know, steaks and sandwiches and stuff.
So.
Yeah. So which is something that I believe in this part of the world, we can easily accept that. Yeah, so those were the food that is available. Do we have any more questions from you folks here today? Thank you for all the questions. We really enjoyed them. So please keep them coming and give us more questions, please. Yeah, and yeah, I think Derek is also coming from the point of a photographer. So he's actually looking at shooting sunrise and also sunset. Okay. Now the thing is that this is, I would actually say this is a problematic area, you know, for photographers. You know why? The main reason is because it's so enticing. At night you have the stars and everything, and then you have to do your astro photography, and you can't get to bed. And then before you know it, it's already coming to sunrise, and then you have to get going, you know. Yeah, so and you can technically be shooting the entire day without stopping at all. So my recommendation is that if you are like the driver, you have to make sure that you get ample rest, okay? Yeah, because driving continuously will then be the biggest challenge that you're facing in Namibia. Okay, and the other thing is that I don't know, Nikki, but my personal experience in Namibia that I feel it's still better to go with at least a convoy, you know, 2 vehicles at least, or 3. Okay, just in case, you know, that a certain soft area and the vehicle gets stuck, you have another vehicle to rescue you, because you'll be in the midst of nowhere and you won't be seeing anyone for a long time. Okay, so you will probably want to take note of that. And the other thing is that make sure that you have ample water with you. And I think at a lot of the places in Namibia, Nikki, you can illegally fly a drone, right? Nobody will be there to catch you.
Yeah, yeah. In a lot of places, nobody will be there.
Yeah. So you know, if for those who are really interested in drone photography, this is one place that you must go. Okay, and then you can secretly fly your drone happily, and you can get fabulous pictures. You know, aerial photos of especially the landscape. So that is something that a golden tip for you guys. Okay, so and then Derek would like to clarify if they could stay inside the drone in order to shoot sunrise and sunset. So I think
Yeah.
what Nikki says is that you can actually book one of the lodges inside, or you be at the gate, you know, before it opens, so that you'll be the first one to dash in before the sun actually rise, and then you'll be able to do that. So
Derek, just to say, I think a lot of, I mean, it is an amazing, so many activities when you're traveling in Southern Africa, certainly, you know, in a lot of these places that we've been speaking about, really do revolve around sunrise and sunset. You know, we've spoken about so many of the game drive activities, for example, where you get up before dawn and go out. So everybody, you know, the lodges are all totally aware of the fact that everybody wants to be there for sunrise. You know, that is the goal, that is the thing. So all activities are sort of tuned in for that. So you will be able to do that.
Yeah. So that is comforting to know for everyone, you know. And then they'll have everything ready with the coffee and the biscuits and everything, and you can have that little bit of joy before you actually go about your daily routine. Okay. Yeah. So do we have more questions coming in from our friends here today? So how is Namibia for everyone? Do you find that this is a destination that you will travel to? Maybe we can see your comments in the chat box. Yeah, do share with us your views. Yeah. 110% from JP. Wow. Fantastic. 200% from Alan. Wow. Oh, this sounds like a bidding war, you know. We may go up to 1,000%.
I must say that, you know, in a situation where COVID is sort of in a COVID scenario like what we're facing at the moment, there's no nicer destination to go to in terms of social distancing, spatial, you know, loads of space around you, and really it's perfect destination for that.
So now Jen is saying that we can sell this tour at 500% the original price. No, just joking. Yeah, but 500% you want to go. Okay. Yeah, so cool. 600%. You see it's going up. Yeah, so you know, you maybe Namibia Tourism Board should hire you as an ambassador, my friend. Yeah, you know, because you did such a great job with that. So we are already at 1,000% now, you see. So wonderful. Yes, yeah. In fact,
I see Alan. Sorry, Julian. I see Alan has asked a question about malaria. I think let me just answer that.
Right.
And about from health protocols. Malaria is basically in majority of Namibia, there is no malaria and there's no risk of malaria at all. The only area that I would say you need to be careful of is in the Caprivi Strip.
Where there's a lot of water.
Where there's a lot of water, yeah, obviously, yeah. So that would be sort of a similar type, as I said to you, when you go to Botswana, you need to take malaria prophylactics. Say Caprivi Strip is an issue, but other than that, no.
Yeah. And Etosha
no other requirements from a health perspective.
Okay, yeah. And Etosha National Park is definitely one of the national parks that you must really visit, because all the animals will come for the water, and then you can see a lot of animal interaction at the water hole. You know, so technically you don't need to go around hunting for the wildlife and looking for them. You can just go to the water hole and you wait, you know, put up your cameras, and there you go. All the action is there. Okay, yeah. So,
and in fact, one of the things I meant to mention was that most of the lodges in Etosha well, all of them have a water hole situated right there, and most of them have photographic hides. And it really is exactly as Julian said, the animals come to the water holes. That's what they do. So you really don't need to move too far. You can just sit there in the hide and watch the animals coming down to drink.
Yeah. And if we are looking at the season of June and July, there's like winter, okay, the winter season over there. So you get a very nice weather. Okay, so Karen is also asking, is there any visa requirements?
It depends where you're coming from. So I don't think visa, okay, for...
Yeah, not for Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah, not for Singaporean. Yeah, we are quite good. We have one of the most powerful passports in the world.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So Derek is asking, are there any opportunities to do wildlife night photography?
Yes, in Etosha, absolutely. At the hides. So as I was mentioning, most of the lodges have got photographic hides situated on the water holes, and they have lights. They have a light looking down onto the water hole at night. So it really does make for fantastic nighttime photography.
Yes, yeah. And if you are doing that, try and find a period where the new moon is, so that you can also do, like, for example, the Milky Way, you know, at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can do a lot of star trail or time-lapse photography. That will be really, really nice. Okay, yeah. So that's something to look out for, especially for photographers.
Yes, we'll have to plan it around the new moon. We'll have to plan the dates around the new moon, Julian.
That is correct, yeah. That's what we will do.
I thought about that.
Yeah, yeah. But we have all the calendar days, you know, and we'll be able to do that. Okay, right. That depends on you. Yes, yeah, that will depend on everyone, but we will make it happen for sure. Okay, yeah. Any other questions that we have over here? How about internet and telecom coverage? Oh, which is an important question, I think. A lot of people is asking about Wi-Fi and stuff like that.
Yeah. In certain areas, you're going to struggle, obviously, driving, but you know, most of the lodges have got internet coverage and telecommunication coverage. So it's really just if you're going right into the very remote areas while you're traveling.
So yeah, just be aware that because Namibia is such a big country, and then the population is generally just situated in a few places. You know, so along the way you don't get people there. So there's actually there's actually no need for the telecoms company to build all the satellites or whatever along the way. So which is why you will probably not get any phone signals along the way, and there's something you have to take note of. Okay.
Yeah. Look, just bearing in mind, and you know, I always say this, that we will not send people into areas where there's any concern about, you know, so Julian, you were mentioning earlier about sort of traveling in convoy. If people are doing a self-drive on their own, you know, we would not send them off onto places where they could get totally lost, or, you know, are so remote that, you know, all the roads are really bad.
Yes.
So obviously all of those things are taken into consideration. And you know, the car rental companies are really great also about sort of if there's a, you know, somebody gets a puncture, or, you know, the windscreen gets a chip in it or something like that, about replacing vehicles as well.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I hope that is very, very comforting news for everyone who's thinking of self-driving, because I think technically around here, you know, a lot of us prefer that, especially with right now with COVID-19 situation. I think it's even better, you know, to self-drive, and also to visit Namibia because of the, you know, you get so little people around, and the cases are also so few in Namibia, you know. Yeah, so it's very, very safe in that sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Do we get any more questions from our friends here? Okay. I'll just give another 30 seconds if we don't have more questions coming in. Yeah, so as usual, you know, Nikki, you have spent a lot of time and effort to prepare that. Thank you very much, you know, and this is week after week of of intense information. And it's actually, you know, now I'll rate you much higher than Google, you know. So please continue your good work, and also want to thank you, our wonderful audience, for joining us. Please come back really every week for that dose of Africa, and we certainly hope to see you again next week too. And yeah, so just remember that next week we are talking about the southern circuit of Namibia, and come for that because Nikki also has more pictures to show you. Okay, and hope that will really inspire you to visit Namibia. It has to be this destination that you have to do at least once, okay? At least once in your lifetime. All right. So thank you, everyone. With that, we shall take our leave now, okay? And we wish you a wonderful week ahead, and see you next week, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.